what is the impact of that on teachers who are in the system, who might have, frankly, a much better idea about how to deliver education to young people?
They can draw the dollars their way.
What does that mother having access to those funds do to the incentives faced by that teacher? If she could get, if it's, Kentucky spends $18,000 per pupil per year in the public system. On average. Some in some rural areas it's less. In Jefferson County it's dramatically more.
Of course.
And so that is a huge amount of money. And it's incredible to think that a classroom of 30 kids at $500,000 a year to operate that classroom is having real difficulties. That's not a knock on teachers. That's a knock on the system.
Yeah.
A teacher, you give a good teacher 2/3 of that money.
They come out of their own pocket for stuff.
Yeah, teachers. Yeah, and that's the other.
Right, because there's a waste. There's waste.
There's another element here, which is, per pupil funding in Kentucky public schools has gone up 122% since CARA, since the Kentucky Education Reform Act. Teacher salaries, this is all inflation adjusted. Teacher salaries are up 8% in that time. So funding up 122%. Teacher salaries up 8%. Do we trust teachers to be the professionals that they are? I do.
Yeah.
I know fantastic teachers. And I really want them to have the opportunity to use their professional training to help deliver the best they can for kids and for those families. And when you have a relationship of trust with someone, be it somebody who does work on your house or somebody that you are serving in a professional capacity, the fact that you are both walk away from that exchange satisfied, that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that really only a market-based system can really deliver.
Well, it just shows you the state of the values in our country. I mean, I saw a Key and Peele comedy sketch on their YouTube channel several years ago. It was called Teacher Center. It was like Sports Center, and they literally were Sports Center ESPN anchors, talking about the teacher signing a $30 million deal and how the guy's holding up a T-shirt because he was drafted and he was like a math teacher. It's hilarious.
Because it never.
But they make a point.
Yes.
They make a point, which is, my son and daughter are in the same classroom this year. They're first grade and second grade. They're in different grades, but they're in the same classroom this year.
Oh, that's cool.
And having conversations with their teacher is really heartening because obviously nobody loves those kids more than I do. But their teacher might be pretty close, and in terms of really caring about making them do well. And those kinds of teachers, to the extent that we had a robust, decentralized system where teachers and learning environments get matched. It might be an entrepreneurial setup where teacher starts a cottage school to deliver for kids. And as long as that teacher has those parents' trust, it's going to go like gangbusters. It might be, like where my kids go to school, it might be any number of other different arrangements. It might be a tutoring center. It might be, an largely outdoor school, which exists and parents love it. But the point is that the competition for those teachers' services, for the great teachers in the Commonwealth, ought to be robust. It shouldn't be based on a salary schedule. No. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, who may well be shortly in the World Series, may well be the greatest baseball player who ever lived.
Right.
And he's been written a check by the LA Dodgers for $700 million.
It's insane.
Now, I don't expect a lot of teachers to make that kind of money, but to the extent that there's competition for those services, administrators need to be identifying the people who are in it to win it, the people who are going to try to deliver the most value to young people, and compensate them accordingly.
Yes.
I mean, you think about what one teacher over the course of, like say a high school teacher over the course of 5 years might do for, every student that comes to her her classroom in terms of educating them, and the earning potential that they may have just from being like, that's, I mean, Otani, that I mean, like, it is not the economic incentive to make sure we're putting we're empowering these people to make sure they're raising our children to be, 10 times what Otani is, right, in terms of what their economic draw is, because they were empowered from an educational standpoint, right? So their potential is limitless, right? We're to your point about teachers, and why are we loud like a guy that's amazing player, not originally American, right? Essentially being made a billionaire, right, by a team that's subsidized by Californian taxpayers to a certain extent.
Dang.
Right?
That's a whole other issue.
Right. But we can't do the same thing for, our children.
It's our values.
It's our values.
Our values are based on entertainment and materialism.
Bread and
it's
services.
not based on virtue and goodness and education steeped in a focus on excellence and love. I really think that's what it is. It's a love for power, a love for pleasure, a love for wealth and honor, not the things that really matter.
Well,
family, community.
In the case of public education within the Commonwealth, I think a big strain of this is just control.
Yeah.
And between the state itself and people whose salaries depend on a taxing power, that's part of it. They just want to maintain control of those dollars, and whether or not parents ultimately win out in the end is irrelevant. I think there are a lot of people who are fearful that they might lose their jobs if parents are given more control. But I just don't think there's anything to worry about. I think for the most part, putting parents in charge really enhances the reputation of schools and education environments in general that deliver for families. Their reputations are going to be enhanced. Teachers get beat up a lot in the culture. And I think that's really unfortunate. And I think part of the reason that is because of the design of the system that they have to work in right now.
Yes. You ever heard of Jocko Willink? He's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
He wrote a book with a friend of his. It was all about how Navy SEALs
Extreme accountability.
Yeah, something like extreme
Extreme
ownership.
ownership.
It was all about decentralized command. It was all about everyone learning to be accountable for their own actions, taking responsibility for their choices, for their role in whatever decision was made. So, like, he uses an example of one of his underlings, I guess, one of the people he was in charge of, shot at a building that they thought it was the enemy, but it was actually their own, but they didn't know that. And it technically, I mean, on paper or based on the guy's reports, it was the person that he was commanding's fault technically, but whose fault actually was it? He took responsibility no matter what. So in the same way, like, you have to have extreme ownership, but you also have to allow others to sense, because of your ownership, you instill within them a deep sense of ownership as well. So they're more likely to take responsibility for their actions and be more proactive about how they lead more effectively.
Right. And you can't send mixed signals.
Right.
You are either empowered up here. You can be empowered on paper and not be empowered up here, and it's going to be the same result as not being empowered at all.
Right, like you talked about that psychological element of a parent just knowing that they have more options.
There's something else that's better out there, and I have the means to go out and look for it. Maybe that is going to be the thing that wakes up a principal or a superintendent to say, hey, we need to step up here. we need to step up and deliver for these parents because they can walk away easily.
We no longer have a blank check that's guaranteed by statute.
And one other we talk about, like, there's the complaint from a lot of people that this is just gonna be a subsidy to the wealthy. First of all, that's possible, but only to the extent that you design a program that way. And the amendment that's on our ballots does not design a program at all. But the other thing is, to the extent that we have the status quo, public schools currently do have a stronger incentive to listen to the needs and desires of parents who already are wealthy. Because those parents, in their back pocket, can walk away at any time. And for low-income families who are bringing perhaps identical concerns to a public school system, their incentive is not as strong to listen to those families, because those families aren't going anywhere.
Right. That's a sad, right?
Captive audience.
Yeah.